I'm going to be talking about Erikson's psychosocial theory today, and the first stage that I'm going to focus on is the trust versus mistrust stage. This stage starts at infancy, so right as the child is born, and lasts until about 24 months. This stage is very important because this is when the child is building those critical relationships and also when the majority of development takes place. So, some key things that happen during this stage is sensory, perceptual, and motor skills, communication, whether it's cooing, babbling, or learning how to say some words, creating attachments to primary caregivers and others that are around them, and also emotional development. I know I cannot remember anything really from this stage in my life, but my mom always tells stories about when I was a baby because I was her firstborn child. And overall, from the story, she always puts emphasis on how I was a very easy baby. So that's how she would describe my temperament because she was able to take me places with her without having to worry about me throwing a fit or getting irritable. She says that the only time that I ever cried while being in the grocery store was because she had too small shoes on me and she didn't realize it. People actually thought that I never cried until my mom actually snapped a picture of me sprawled out on the bed, stretched out, and crying because I was cold and had just been woken up. I would definitely define my attachment style as secure. Um, I was able, like, I felt comfortable and safe in my mom's arms and were able to explore when she was around. Though I do wonder how I would necessarily fit into Ainsworth's study about attachments because even when left, I was okay if I was in familiar surroundings and had had time to explore. My mom talks about even when I first started looking at daycares, I went into the toddler room and everything, like, I wanted to play, meet new people, and my mom was like, "No, Jordan, you can't stay yet." And I got upset as to why I can't stay and play, and I was ready to tell my mom bye. So I think that's very interesting because I know in the secure attachment, the infant usually cries and is upset when the mother leaves, but then finds comfort when she comes back. I was the type of child where she could be gone and it was still okay, and I would still be excited though when she came back. So I do view that as a secure attachment because I still viewed my mom as that safe person, but I was also okay if she wasn't necessarily there and I was in what felt like safe surroundings. I also had strong attachments to both my mother and father, which I think plays a role in how close I am to them now as well, because I could go to either one and I have that safe feeling. Also, when it comes to motor development, my mother says that I hit all my milestones at the right time. I started walking by 1. I was talking, saying little words, and I was also even potty trained by the age of 2, which she talks about because I didn't like having to sit in a dirty diaper. And so that is where I'm going to end this video. And so that is a little bit about me and what I went through during the trust versus mistrust stage. I would say that I felt like I progressed through this stage well because I built that trust, especially in my mother and my father, and they were able to help me feel safe so that I could advance to what I was supposed to go through with toddlerhood. The next stage in Erikson's psychosocial theory that I'm going to be talking about is the initiative versus guilt stage. This stage lasts from about 2 years old to 4 years old. At this time in the child's life, they're learning right from wrong and learning to accept that sometimes things are going to be wrong and it's okay. And that their learning comes, this stage in learning coincides with Kohlberg's moral development theory. And right now the child is also in his pre-conventional stage. So learning is decided by what gets punished and what gets rewarded, which also ties into Skinner's theory of punishment and reinforcement. So the child is learning that when they do good behavior, they get rewards. And then when they do something wrong, they get punished. And there needs to be that level of consistency so that they aren't confused and they can learn right from wrong. And also at this point in time, they are getting these cues from people in their life like parents, older siblings, and also teachers if they are in daycare or starting kindergarten. Some other key things that are happening in this stage is that they're learning about their gender and what they identify as. And like we talked about early moral development, they're learning about themselves and who they are in the world now that they are separating from their parent. They're learning about peer play, playing with others instead of just parallel play where they're playing next to someone else but not necessarily interacting. And also, they're getting ready to start school. When I think back to this age, I remember having one best friend, and I could only play with her. She could only play with me because we were best friends. And this was a problem because on days when we did decide we wanted to play with someone else, the other person would get mad. And I just always think back because it sounds so silly now. Like, no, this is my best friend. No one else can play with her. And I've also noticed that when I work with children, like they have their one best friend and no one else can play with their friend. I find this stage to be really interesting, and because it's a really big time to help children learn about sharing. Not only sharing like the toys that you're playing with, but also the people that you're playing with. Like it is okay to have more than one friend, and that's when children are also starting to learn about groups and working together versus just always having it be your way, or also only having it so that you only have one friend. This is the time for learning to explore, that you can have many friends, and that group play is also okay. Also, during this stage, I personally was the child that did not like to get in trouble. I lived for rewards. Getting a note sent home saying that I had a great day, or always having a green crayon during class, those were very important to me. So it's not that I was necessarily afraid of punishment, I just rather have the rewards. So I feel like that helped in my moral development because I knew the difference between right and wrong, and I knew that with doing right became rewards and doing wrong came punishment. And I'd rather have the rewards over the punishment. And I could differentiate the types of behaviors that were required for each of those things. Also, during the stage when it came to identifying with my gender, I was kind of in the middle again. I love to do girly things. I wanted a tutu. I loved pink. I loved playing with Barbie. But then I also like to do fun things. My mom used to always talk about how I'd come in so muddy because I take the water hose, fill it, go spray where the dirt is, and then just play in the mud. And I could do that for hours. And how technically that necessarily isn't a girl thing. That's something boys should do. But I found it fun, so I did it. It was never, oh, that's for boys or oh, that's for girls. I did what I like to do. And I think that also comes from my parents just also helping me to make decisions as well early on so that I could decide for myself what it is that I liked. And so when other people came and tried to deter me from that, I was able to be like, well, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And these are my reflections about the stages of Erikson's psychosocial theory of trust and mistrust and initiative versus guilt. Thank you.